New show type alert. What the hell that means. The new show type. And I'm alerting you to it here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Welcome to Trade-a-Palooza. I have no idea how this is going to go. It's something that I haven't done before, at least in this fashion. And there's at least a 50-50 shot that this one falls flat on its face. Today, I put out a clarion call on social media. That was at Dan Vespris over on Twitter, asking for the most compelling trades that my followers had either seen or pulled off themselves. And I went through, and this did not expect this. Well, hell, I mean, you can see the number here on your screen as we get this thing going. I believe that there were, 106 replies in like 3 hours. And I went through all 106 replies, and I picked my 12 favorite trades to talk about from the list. I tried to come up with trades where, I don't know, I thought we could like get into the reasoning behind it a little bit, but also we're going to talk about 12 trades, so I can't spend more than about 3-ish minutes on any of them. So let's see how this goes. And if you want to be involved, maybe we'll do another one of these in a few weeks down the line, depending on how it goes. Just make sure you're following on social media. There is at Dan Vespris on your screen if you're watching. At Old Man Squad over on the brand new Blue Sky Network. And please, folks, as you're settling in now, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, however you're taking in the content, drop a 5-star review. That stuff is very important. Let's just do the first one, and let's see what happens. And you followers are going to get their stuff put up on the screen here, so that'll be fun for them as well. This is from at It's King Jubs 1. I traded Grady Dick and Trey Mann for Freddie VanVleet when both those guys were hot and Freddie VanVleet was playing bad. I love this one. I love this one because now, on December 4th, everybody is looking at this trade and saying it's the dumbest thing that this other person could have possibly done. Because Trey Mann is, first of all, hurt, but also not doing anything. And Grady Dick is hurt, and even when he's back, he's piddling around outside the top 100. But there was legitimately a time, like a week and a half into the season, where a lot of folks believed that Trey Mann was going to be the man all season long, and weren't chalking it up to the fact that Brandon Miller was out. Brandon Miller came back, and immediately Trey Mann went to do nothing. Grady Dick was a guy putting up big numbers because the whole Raptors starting 5 around him was out. Okay, not Jakob Poeltl, but Scotty Barnes was out, and RJ Barrett missed a little bit of time. Remember, he had the thing to start the year, and Emmanuel Quickley basically still hasn't played. And I know the reason, and again, you guys are going to say I'm pulling up idiotic trades. No. I mean, yes, but no, because I remember week and a half, whatever it was, into the season, I said in my tweets, my tweet storms, and on my shows, and you can go back and you can read them and you can watch them because it's all out there. I was like, look, guys, I don't think Grady Dick's going to be much as soon as guys start coming back. RJ Barrett's going to take from him. Scotty Barnes is going to take from him. Emmanuel Quickley is going to take from him. This guy's a three-point specialist when all those guys are healthy. And Trey Mann, I was like, this guy was like, and we had just enough data where I felt quite confident in saying it because the first half of that game before Brandon Miller went down, Trey Mann did nothing. And then Brandon Miller went down and Trey Mann did a lot of stuff. And I had people very much in my mentions yelling at me, nah, man, you're way too low on Grady Dick. He's like, he does all sorts of stuff now. And, oh, Dan, no, Trey Mann, he's part of the building blocks there. I was like, guys, you guys are seeing what you want to see right now. It's hard to be Sergeant Buzzkill, which is kind of what I am on this show. I'm fully aware of that. But you might also remember that I had plenty of Freddie VanVleet trolls trying to come from my head. Today would be a day to do it because he had a bad game yesterday, but he's a 4th rounder now. And I think still trending upward. We need the assists to get up just a little bit higher, and then we'll be around where we need him to be. But, everything else is pretty close. Could we get the field goal maybe a little bit higher? That's fine also. In any event, people would have said this was absolutely foolish, and yet it's a trade that I would have seen happen. How was that? That was about the right length for a breakdown, right? I think so. We'll find out as we get towards the end of this thing. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your Points at Camera number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to the NBA and college basketball, NHL, and UFC. You can head to Bet Online today. And when you sign up, don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your very first deposit at Bet Online, where Bet Online, the game starts here. You guys knew that already. And again, that promo code BLEAV. Trade number 2. I never know where the pronunciation is here. Chaku Jr. is what I'm going to go with. Rolled the dice and traded away my Naz Reid for Joel Embiid. We play until the end of the season. This is interesting. And I have to admit, I am curious now. And this trade makes me want to put something out on social media to find out what people are valuing Joel Embiid at right now. Because I think you're seeing a lot of teams that are selling him for nothing with the expectation that he's just not going to play this year. Is it worth it, though? Like, what is getting, I like Naz Reid as much as the next guy, but what is getting Naz Reid really doing for your basketball team? You're getting an 8th rounder. That's fine. You know, small impact fantasy play. And he's out there nightly, so you're getting something from him. But what would it take these days to get Joel Embiid? I feel like most of you out there, even those of you that want nothing to do with Embiid, would probably give up Naz Reid for Embiid. And yes, I'm fully aware that this trade rhymes, and you guys are just going to have to come along with me on that journey. But would the Joel Embiid guy, would they give him up for Michael Porter Jr.? Would they give him up for Christian Brown? Would they give him up for Kobe White, who's number 76? You guys might not have known that. What about Tyus Jones at 82? He's a solid everyday producer. Nothing spectacular there, but a decent 7th round fantasy player. Or do we still have to get up into the 50 range? Do you still have to go give up a Jakob Poeltl or a Zach LaVine or a Jordan Poole? By the way, you guys should know I'm probably giving up almost every single name that I just rattled off for Joel Embiid. We have not cleared my price range yet. And you guys are like, Dan, Zach LaVine, really? Yeah, I mean, he's been fine, but he's certainly no game changer. Jordan Poole is down to number 58 after that crazy start, which was like the most obvious thing on planet Earth that you could see coming. Jakob Poeltl's the closest name I've gotten to maybe not kind of thing, but I still would. The cutoff for me to not do it anymore, what would I not give up for Joel Embiid, is like around 40. Because once you get beyond that, those guys are very tough to replace. Very tough to replace. But like 55, 65, and beyond, those are replaceable. Not that you can find a number 65 guy out on the waiver wire. You can't. They're obviously much more useful than that. You're not going to find a Michael Porter Jr. out there. But he doesn't break your team by not having him. If you trade MPJ and you get Embiid back and Joel plays 18 games all season, that's not what ended your year. Something else was wrong with your fantasy basketball team. That doesn't help. But boy, what if you give up one of these guys? What if you give up a Devin Vassell and the person's like, yeah, that'll do. And you get Joel Embiid back and suddenly he starts playing. What if? So I like this trade for Chaku Jr. Next one. I think I might be going too long on these synopses. Austin Reeves for Desmond Bane. This is chef's kiss on buy low on Desmond Bane. It might not work right now because Reeves is dealing with that pelvic contusion after he took a hard fall in whatever the hell game that was. And because of that, he had to come out halfway through, and his percentages haven't been very good so far this year. Reeves is only at 115. This is a trade that you might not be able to pull off anymore because Bane is 129. So those guys are kind of like not two ships passing. Frankly, I think Austin Reeves is a buy low also, but turning someone like Reeves, who you're actually starting to see. I saw a Jovan Buat tweet about it, but like this is starting to be the, hey, maybe the Lakers should try this. That next thing on the list is either bring the original starters back together and either go Rui or Dalton Connect in that fifth spot, meaning Reeves and D'Lo together, or try Austin Reeves coming off the bench. And does that limit his upside as well, or does it actually make it better? I honestly don't know. But what we do know about Reeves is that as is currently constructed, the top line for him is like around 75, and Bane can go higher than that. So I'm a fan of this one. I think you can get Desmond Bane for someone who is not a sell low, because that's what that would be with Reeves. But I'm very much fine with it. Next trade. This is from Gravy Vampire. I sent Pascal Siakam and Jonas Valanciunas for LeBron. I also sent Miles Bridges and Davion Mitchell for Zach LaVine and Derek Lively. That second one seems like nonsense. So we're going to focus on the first one, which I think is a trade that you could potentially pull off right now. Pascal Siakam and Jonas Valanciunas for LeBron James. Right now, Siakam is ranked ahead of LeBron, and he should be because Pascal's been percentages much better. But the upside, you're trading for upside here, and LeBron's upside is so far beyond that of Pascal Siakam. We're talking night and day here. LeBron's at 22 points, 8 boards, and 9 assists with 2 3-pointers. Siakam's at 20 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, and 2 3-pointers. But the big difference between the two guys is that Siakam's at 53, 79 splits, and LeBron is at a disgusting 48, 74.5 with 4 turnovers. 8-cat already, LeBron's got the leg up on him. But 9-cat right now, Siakam is a solid 2 rounds of value ahead of LeBron James. And again, it's all about the percentages. LeBron lately is playing like a points league player. And I am arguing, as you guys have heard me do on a couple of shows already, that this is just a really bad scheduling stretch for the Lakers. And it doesn't get much better in that they had this 5 games and 7 nights thing that ended on Monday, but they're right back at it tonight. They're in Miami. Let's see, Utah, Minnesota, Miami, Atlanta, 4-game swing. At least the last 2 are not too terribly far apart. It's been a really tough scheduling span because during that 5-game and 7-day span, the Lakers were on the road for 4 of the 5 with a weird stop back at home between San Antonio and Utah. Schedule sucks for the Lakers right now. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but it's why LeBron is tired. Luckily, everybody's got a pretty light schedule in week 8. Those games have come out. I have to load them into the Google sheet that is linked in the show description. But that's a wonderful time for LeBron to get his breath. Lakers also have a relatively light schedule coming out of the NBA Cup week where they only have 5 games over about 11 days. Even better than that, actually. I think it's like 6 games over 14 days or something like that. So pretty easy schedule coming out of it. That's when LeBron's going to get his legs back. Go get him. If it takes Siakam, great. Long-time listener, Chris. I think it's Rademacher, but I might be messing that up. Sorry, Chris. C. Rademacher 2006 tweets, I traded away Josh Giddey for Jimmy Butler. First of all, I don't know how the hell you pulled this one off, but I mostly put this one on the board because I want you guys trading for Jimmy Butler. He tweaked a knee. We don't know exactly how that's going to pan out. But right now for Butler, he's a 70th ranked 9-cat player, but like one layer inside of that, he's a top 35 9-cat player. And the reason is because he's still shooting under 80% at the free throw line. How did he go from being like number 95, 105, or whatever it was to number 69? That was by getting his free throw from 75 up to 78 or 79. I guess he's pushing 79 right now. The rest of the stuff for Jimmy is relatively close to what we expect. A little bit of a downtick because you're getting sort of bonus Tyler Hero for the Heat right now. But if you just adjust Butler's free throw percent to where it belongs, he's a top 40 guy. So hell yeah, do what you can to go get him. It doesn't mean trade away a top 40 guy. That means that is where you price him out. But you can get him for less than that. because he's constantly hurt. I don't think, like, you probably wouldn't even take the guys that are around him to pry Jimmy Butler away. You could probably get him for Michael Porter Jr., who's ranked right next to Butler, but has played 5 additional games. So by totals, MPJ's actually been better. Jalen Suggs is number 70. I would definitely give him up for Jimmy Butler. Christian Brown, Kobe White. We already talked about him before. We have to go down to Tyus Jones. I don't think anybody's giving you Jimmy Butler for Santi Aldama. You might be able to get him from Malik Monk right now, who's going crazy in his last few games as a starter, which, again, could Monk end up just being the greatest pickup in the history of fantasy basketball? He could, but odds are things are going to kind of settle a little bit. So sure, if you can get Jimmy Butler for Josh Giddey, you definitely do it. But I wanted to highlight this trade because I'm quite comfortable going and getting Jimmy Butler and giving up quite a bit more than what Josh Giddey will net you these days. Although in this league, it was Jimmy Butler. Robert Garcia at Robert tweeted, Kyrie for J-Dub. This was a good one because, again, this is another one where people are looking at it now and going, what on earth? But perhaps you've all forgotten that the first week of the season, Jalen Williams was like number 60. And Kyrie Irving was a top 20 guy like he always is. He's number 16 right now. It's not like Kyrie's having a bad season. But Kyrie Irving was, top 20. And Jalen Williams was probably in that 30 to 50 range. And this dude had the foresight to go, this guy's on the way up. This guy's flying right now. And flipped him. I will say, I don't think there's a super obvious winner in this trade. I think Jalen Williams probably comes down from where he's at right now, mostly because he's at 3 combined defensive stats, and I don't know that that necessarily holds all season long. And the crazy steals number is part of what's floating him at the moment, but he's also really, really good. So even if he comes down, you're kind of talking about 2 guys that are relatively tight to one another. This is a little bit like, it's kind of a fun trade, but it's also a little bit of a goofy one because in the moment, like, this trade was to get off of Kyrie's missed game stuff. But that hasn't really been an issue yet. Irving's at 20 ball games. I think he's only missed, 1, 2 so far for Dallas? Very few. 5 to 10%. That's nothing for him. And if if he's not missing ball games, then there's really nothing wrong with just having Kyrie the whole way through. But there's also nothing wrong with having Jalen Williams. So this is just kind of a fun one that highlighted 2 guys, one of whom was just sort of coasting along, but has an injury risk attached to him, and the other one was on the way up. And I'm on the way up. PDX Spurs, the Portland Spurs. I got Fred VanVleet for Jabari Smith Jr. and Trey Mann in week 2. It's the second Trey Mann related trade that I've highlighted here. And I have to admit, I actually didn't remember that I did that. But again, this is the art of buying and selling players. And the first couple weeks of the season are easily the best time to do that. Jabari Smith Jr., this was before he completely fell off a cliff. He bounced back a little bit. Last week, Jabari had a pretty good week. He's up to number 131 now at the end of that. But Trey Mann's outside the top 200. And Freddie VanVleet, again, is at 48. But when this went out, Jabari Smith Jr. was at like 75. Trey Mann was at like 45. And it looked like he was going to be a thing, even though I told you guys he wasn't going to be a thing. Some of you weren't going to listen to me. And everybody was mad at Freddie VanVleet. So PDX Spurs here, they just went out and they were like, look, I'm going to take my hot players that I don't think are going to last. I'm going to go get somebody that I'm pretty sure is going to last. Bingo, bango. Nobody believes that these things happen. And every time a trade like this comes down, there's always some dude who's ready to go, oh, yeah, Taco League. To that, I say, if it happens as regularly as it does, they're not all goober leagues. You can't make a statement about an entire league based on one trade either. There may have just been one dude in this one league that maybe auto-drafted Freddie VanVleet or drafted him because I said so and then was like, Dan's an idiot and pissed off, and they soured on him after 5 bad ball games. And they looked and they were like, you know what? I think Dan's an idiot now, so I'm going to fade him on these other things too. So I don't care that Dan is telling me Trey Mann is about to disappear into nothing. I want him because I think Dan's wrong about that too. And I get plenty of stuff wrong. This isn't about me tweeting my own horn, but this is how these types of things happen. Someone out there is just like, I give up on Freddie VanVleet. 5 games is enough. I've seen enough. Harumph, they say as they adjust their top hat and leave. These trades happen. These are real people, real Twitter followers, really submitting things that they've done or seen, meaning it could be you. And so when analysts, myself, whoever is out there going, go try to do this, we know it's because it can be done. Not everywhere. You universally get done, but somewhere. Where Yava tweets, I traded Wendell. Traded? That's because I said where Yava. I got the W's on the brain. I traded Wendell Carter Jr. and Bilal Coulibaly for Desmond Bane. I also traded Jeremy Grant and Dyson Daniels for Jalen Williams. These are freaking brilliant. Well done. And they're trades that I think we can all think about and go, oh yeah, I guess I see how that may have made sense. Because remember, the first, before Wendell Carter Jr. went down with plantar fasciitis, he was piling up rebounds. And Bilal, he's in a very strong cold stretch right now. He's still actually kind of fine. I think he's going to bounce back at some point here. And Desmond Bane's been awful and injured. Boom. That's a trade you could definitely see happening. And remember, Jeremy Grant got off to a top 50 start, and we screamed on this show, sell, please sell. And Dyson Daniels was getting 6 steals a ball game. I still love Dyson Daniels, by the way. And Jalen Williams was ranked behind Dyson Daniels, really close to him. And so for a lot of folks, it was like, Jalen Williams. I drafted him at, 28. All these jerk analysts told me to draft him at 28, and here he is at 45. I guess that's just what he is. Ooh, this Dyson Daniels guy looks interesting, and Jeremy Grant is top 50. Bam. There it is. These things happen. Nice trades, bud. I screwed that up. I meant to just switch to the next tab over, and I accidentally closed it. Here it is. Here's the next one. Keith Lim at Joey Jazz Fan tweets, Jaylen Brown and Chet Holmgren for Wemby in the first week. Plus, my team already had Jokic. Your team is mean, bud. And this is very much a trade you guys could have seen happening. Remember a week into the season, and most people were like, man, I wish I had just drafted Chet Holmgren instead of Wemby. And this is, forget the injury stuff. Chet Holmgren, his numbers are still solid this year before he went down. But did you guys really think he was going to stay better than Wemby? A lot of people did. Wemby was number 35 to 50 range to start the year. And everybody's like, oh, I can't believe I want Wemby at number 1. And look, you guys know I'm a Nikola Jokic guy at number 1. But I was very much a Wemby guy at number 2. And that was happening. And that was could we really buy low on Victor Wembanyama? And the answer was, yeah. But buy low doesn't mean lowball somebody. It means give them the thing they want, or the thing they think they want, which in this case was Chet Holmgren, who was ranked number 6 after a few games at that point. He was putting up some really obscenely impressive numbers. And Jaylen Brown, who's fine. He scores a lot, but he's got his various percentages issues that are always going to hold him down in some capacity. And so someone was like, great, I'm getting the guy I wanted instead of Wemby, and I'm getting Jaylen Brown on top of it. But we knew it was Wemby time, and it was just a matter of time until it became Wemby time. These are the things you must consider. Keith, I'm very proud of you on this trade. I'm proud of you because you didn't try to lowball the Wemby manager and say, oh, here's Jaylen Brown and my 4th round. Well, Jaylen Brown is probably your 4th rounder. He's Jaylen Brown and my 3rd rounder, or here's Jaylen Brown and my 5th rounder. You said, here's Jaylen Brown and my overachieving 2nd rounder. You made that crap as tempting as you possibly could, and it worked. Jody Tolosa says, I dealt Vucci I don't know that I've heard anybody call him Vucci before, but I like that. And Jaden Ivey, and I got Jalen Johnson back. Vucci's doing his best to try and make me regret it, but JJ is a beast. I appreciate that. This is great. And actually, I wanted to highlight this one because I think Jalen Johnson is a really good target to try to get with your Nikola Vucevic sell high. Vooch is at 21 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2.2 3-pointers on a still frighteningly unsustainable 58% from the field. And I think he's basically like a 50-50-90 guy. Sorry, 50 40-something, 84-something guy. Whatever, doesn't matter. He's shooting the lights out. Just way over his head in all of this stuff. And he's probably going to peel back by 1 or 2 rounds as the percentages settle and or he potentially gets traded. And all those things are a possibility. Harder to pull off now because Jalen Johnson has worked his way up. He was like number 75 at the beginning of the year because he couldn't shoot and the turnovers were crazy high. But you could always see all the other good stuff happening. And now everything is settled for him. And Jalen Johnson's number 18. So it's probably too late to pull off this particular trade. But if you pair up Vooch with, I don't know, maybe somebody in the 60s, that might get it done. Jaden Ivey's just not going to get it done because he's not a good 9-cat guy. But you could go Vooch and one of those players we talked about before, like a Michael Porter or Schroeder or Suggs or Brown or Beal, because he can't stay healthy, or a surging red-hot Malik Monk would be a fun one to throw in there. Tyus Jones. Maybe that's the combo that gets it done. But I would try to do this one. That's a fun trade, and pulling it off before was really the key. This is not a trade. I just thought that we should all pity poor Jose Andres here. At Joe Andy says, I had tons of point guards, and Emmanuel Quickley was coming back, so I turned Kyrie Irving into Chet Holmgren the same day he broke his hip. That same week, Emmanuel Quickley had his UCL tear, so I was left without Chet, without Kyrie, and without Emmanuel Quickley. And Jose, I have water, and I'm not going to pour it on my desk, but I officially pour one out for your fantasy team. That is unbelievably bad luck, and I just thought we could all have kind of a laugh, because I'm assuming this is what you wanted by tweeting it at me. So now we laugh at you. Did this one work? Yeah, there we go. Josh Jopan said, I traded Kyrie and Bam for Wemby. Beautifully done, Josh. Beautifully done. That's not a trade you're going to be able to pull off anymore because Wemby's number 2 and ain't nobody catching him for that number 2 spot. Jokic at 1 and Wemby at 2 are pretty much locked in right now. I mean, again, these are good players. Kyrie's number 16. He hasn't missed much in the way of games yet. And where the hell's Bam after their last ball game? Bam's like around 50, I think. Yeah, 49. Yeah, I mean, you could offer that up right now for Wemby, and I think they'll probably say no. But again, this is the kind of trade you could pull off when Wemby wasn't the number 2 player in fantasy. I love what these both of the Wemby trades we've talked about on today's show. I love them, not because it got the dude Wemby. That's fine. That's the good endpoint. What I love is seeing you guys, the followers, the listeners, whatever, go out there and offer up legitimate fantasy returns for the guys you're trying to get. It's like the difference between watching my buy low shows that we do here weekly. I said, buy low on LeBron James. And someone's like, well, LeBron is ranked, LeBron's ranked number 74 right now. I'm going to send the guy ranked 72. You're not going to get LeBron James for Christian Brown. You're not going to get him for Nick Richards. If you want to trade, if you want to buy low on somebody, you got to give up something of value that stands between the player you have the player you're targeting and where you believe that targeted player will finish. So take LeBron James as an example. Again, if you think LeBron is going to get back inside the top 30, which I do this year because I don't think these percentages are going to stick, and he's currently ranked 74, that means that between 30 and 74, there's a 44, we can just say 40 some odd, gap of guys you could potentially give up that might still net you a win in the long term. But you got to find the point in between those goalposts where you're also comfortable giving up the player. I don't want to give up the number 30 guy for LeBron right now, not while he's ice cold, but I'd probably give up the top number 45 range guy, like a Norman Powell or a Brandon Miller, or hell, even Jalen Brunson, who's number 47. I'd rather have LeBron. And it's close. Siakam, we just talked about. Bam Adebayo, Freddie VanVleet. All these guys are in that 50 range right now. And maybe Adebayo and VanVleet, perhaps they inch forward a little bit as well. Jalen Brunson, I think, is pretty close to where he ends up, by the way, when the numbers all settle this year. But that gives you the space to say, look, I'm going to still give you a player of significant value. And in the very short term, you, guy who has LeBron, are giving me the weaker player because LeBron is slumping so hard right now. I'm going to give you the guy who's playing better. But I'm willing to do that because I believe that long term, LeBron is going to pass that guy. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I believe it's going to happen. And that's what we just saw here with this Wemby trade. Wemby was behind Kyrie and pretty much level with Bam. And Josh here said, it's fine. I know that Wemby's going to eventually move past these guys. You can have my short-term wins. I want the long-term. Last trade we're going to talk about on this Trade-a-Palooza show because we've cleared the 30-minute mark, and I paced it out about the way I wanted to. Big Nicky 23 says, I traded away Franz for Tyrese Halliburton. This is a really interesting one because Franz Wagner is going crazy. He's number 12, which is where I think most of us thought Tyrese Halliburton was going to be. Although I guess some people thought it was going to be earlier than that. Halliburton has been a second rounder over the last week and a half. He's showing signs of coming out of it. His field goal percent is up to 41.5, which I realize is not an epic win, but it's on the way. And if he gets that up around 46, 47, which is where we want him, that would get him into the middle of the second round, which again is not quite all the way to where Franz is at the moment. But I think we all know that Franz is where he is at the moment, partly because he's a good basketball player, but partly because Paolo Banchero's out. And so Franz gets to take 25 shots a night if he wants to. And on some nights, he does. Where does Franz fall when Paolo comes back? Somewhere. We know he's going to fall somewhere. And this is one that I think is going to give the Franz manager pause before sending them away. But the guy with Halliburton is probably thinking, well, I mean, Tyrese had his first good road game in a long while yesterday, and that probably gives them a lot of confidence. If you had pulled this trade off, I think before yesterday, you could have pulled this trade off with your eyes closed. Now might not be so simple. But you've got to believe that Franz falls through the second round and into at least the third, possibly even the fourth, as his usage rate dries up a little bit. And Halliburton, if he can just continue to play at a second round clip the rest of the way, he passes him. You're giving up something of great value if you want to get something of great value back. And that's the overarching theme of this Trade-a-Palooza show. I wanted to highlight trades that were, number one, interesting. Number two, fun, because a lot of the players that were targeted were ones that we've talked about targeting in trades. And number three, I thought almost every trade that we just talked about was a really good example of a person not disrespecting the other managers in their league by offering up crap and asking for a really good player slumping. What you can do, and I want to loop back around and figure out what Joel Embiid costs. So don't let me forget that, everybody. If I forget to put the tweet out, you guys can yell at me about it. The main thing here is understanding perception of, number one, the public at large of a particular player, but also the manager that has that player rostered in your specific fantasy league. So if you're looking to try to buy low on LeBron James, for instance, go check and find out who has LeBron James in your fantasy league. What are they ranked right now? Are they like outside the playoffs in your head-to-head league? Are they like 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that in your Roto league? That's a team that might be interested in making a shift. If the team in second place has LeBron, that's a team that's probably just going to be like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm still here, aren't I? So figure out who you're trading with, understand the perception angle of the whole thing, and then see if you can do something with it. That's our Trader-Palooza show, everybody. Tomorrow, we'll have a twofer again for you guys. I've made up my mind on something because the number of games added during this NBA Cup week next week is quite low. I'm not going to do a separate show in the middle of this week on next week. We'll do something over the weekend related to the sort of low tide because streaming is going to be really important because you have very few games played. So even getting a 2-3 game edge over your opponent, if you're not in Yahoo's bunched them both together. That could be a really big win. But we're not going to do a show on that in the middle of this week. We'll do something over the weekend. Instead, we're going to talk a little bit about the games being added during our recap show tomorrow. But also tomorrow, and this is going to come down to timing, but I really want to make this happen. We'll try to get the big hot cold show dropping first thing in the morning. So that's what's likely to come up here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball tomorrow. Also, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to get some buy and sell shows going with some of my favorite guest analysts. Yes, they are coming back upon the podcast. I don't know exactly who's first. I think Dan Titus might be first. Kayla Fonte might be first. I got to look at my schedule. I don't know. One of these awesome fantasy analysts will be first. And then a whole bunch after. You guys get to hear me yell at you about buy lows and stuff like that. I want to hear from everybody else. Who did they think is the buy, the sell? We'll talk about that with all the best analysts. Those are going to be scattered and dropping over the next couple of weeks. Should be a ton of fun as I work my way through a lot of my favorite voices in this fantasy space. I am Dan Vespris, at Dan Vespris on Twitter. That's, again, where you could have contacted me if you wanted to get your trade on today's show. At Old Man Squad over on Blue Sky. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe and drop a 5-star review on the show before you wrap things up for the day. Until tomorrow, however, I'll see ya.